Hello again, this is a Chapter 11 video. We're going to be looking at imageviewer 0-4, giving an introduction to layouts and also an introduction to JoptionPane. So let's have a look at the imageviewer version 4. Before we look at the BlueJ version of it, here are the 4 classes which are being used. We've got the imageviewer class, which is similar to the imageviewer class you all used to with the previous versions. We've got the image file manager, which basically deals with opening files and saving files, and it uses static methods to do this, and we're going to show you that in a second. Image panel, which is effectively it's an extension of the J component, so it inherits J component. So it's sort of being treated a bit like the J label which we used. Remember, J label is also inherits from J component, so it sort of acts in the same way, except it stores an image rather than stores the text that we had previously on our J label. And then finally, we've got a class called ofImage. ofImage, as it says, their models are 2D image, and it is based on the buffer reader class and inherits from that. So that's the classes we're going to look at. Now, we're not really going to look too much at the ofImage or image panel classes. You can kind of abstract yourself away from those two. However, 2 areas of interest though, I think, are the image file manager and the image viewer class. So the ofImage class, as I say, we're going to abstract ourselves away from that. All you need to know though is it's a subclass of the buffered image, and it effectively represents a 2-dimensional array of pixels. And some methods we're going to use there, and we're going to use the color class to specify the colors of the specific pixels within that picture. So let's have a look at the image viewer class and adding the actual image panel. So here's the image viewer class. And here we have which is very, very similar to the previous version where that added the J panel. Again, this is just adding an image panel, which is it's a component, so it's very similar type indeed, and it just adds that there. The other new different things apart from in the image viewer class are that it stores this image panel as a field. We've done some bits and pieces with the open file, so it actually does something, and the quit is the same as we've done before. The first thing we're going to look at is the open file. We'll see if there's anything else, just to any other changes. The only other changes really here are in the J menu item. We've added an accelerometer, or an accelerator rather. An accelerator is just a shortcut basically, but really everything else is the same in this particular class. So what we're going to have a look at is we're going to have a look at the open file method here, because opening a file and using a file explorer is a pretty standard thing to be doing in any programming language, so I'm going to introduce you to that now. So here's the image file manager program, or class rather, and it uses one of the fields it uses as a JFileChooser, which is a major class for working with files. What it also does is it's when using the JFileChooser, it uses a system.getProperty user dir, and that is some interesting bits there which I'm going to just go through in a second. Okay, let's have a look at that now then. So I'm just going to type this out and pause and restart the video. Okay, so that's the import statement which is required to have a look at this file chooser. And that's the statement which has been used in the class there. So we can see when we run that, that one works fine. And then once we've created the object file chooser, then we can run this line here, which is a file chooser.show open dialog, and that will pop up the open dialog bit there. So that's a useful little file chooser which you can use in your own programs. Okay, let's continue looking through this image file viewer. So the file chooser, the JFileChooser class is very useful for creating those dialogues for choosing files. The system.getProperty, let's have a quick look at that. So let's have a look in the API. If we look in this class, just a quick search for get properties. This gives you a list of properties which you can get and use. We're using the user.dir one there, but there's plenty of other things we can use. The Java class path, for example, the Java vendor URL, the Java installation directory, and some other specific things which might be useful in our programs. So that's the system class. Remember, we've encountered the system class before from system.out.println and also system.in. Okay, the other class which is used a lot in this, or the other class is used a lot in this particular image file viewer class or file manager class, is the file class. Let's have a look at the file class. So here's some use of the file class here. And what the file class does is it will gives a representation of a specific file and has lots of generic things associated with files. So you can create temporary files with whatever extension you want, and you can get information about it. It's generic file type information. So there's a couple of classes which are used within this particular class. Okay, so we're not going to have too much more of a look into that particular class, but I thought you'd be interested in those particular parts of it there. When we are loading an image in the image viewer, then here we have the sort of the bit which we've gone through, the use of the file manager there. The other thing which we're going to consider now is layout managers. Now, this is going to be relevant when you do your Android, because the way that the Android GUI system works is layout managers. The flow layout, border layout, grid layout, box layout, and grid bag layout. The problem is, you see, at the moment when we've got our image viewer, everything is just sort of added to it, and it's got no real layout. So you need a kind of a structure in the way that it's going to be put in. So what we've done is we've created some examples of what it looks like here. So if I created image viewer class and then used the flow layout class, then this is the way in which it would be laid out. In a sort of in order really of the labels which you've added, or the buttons which you've added. The next one is the border layout, which is used all the time in programming, with the north, west, south, east and centre piece is often used. And then we've got the grid layout, which gives a specific grid which goes in a certain order. The box layout, which gives sort of a vertical order. Now when you do the Android stuff, you're going to find that there is other layout managers available, and it's just a case of working with them. So what we generally do is we use nested containers. So what you decide to do is you might decide ultimately your application is going to have a border layout like that. However, in the West layout, you're going to use maybe a box layout to put your bits and pieces in there. In the center, you may decide to do a grid layout. So we use what's called nested containers to do this. The other way you can do it is have the grid bag layout, which is another way of doing it. So layouts, just be aware of layouts for the time being, and we're going to encounter lots more layouts when we do the Android stuff. For the Java stuff, you can relax on this for the rest of the Java course. The other thing which you need to be aware of is dialog boxes. Again, we have dialog boxes in Android as well as in Java. There's a couple of basic ideas. You've got the modal ones or the non-modal ones. So the difference are really the modal one will force a response from the user, whereas the non-modal one doesn't really do that. The standard dialogues which are available for the JoptionPane, the message dialog, confirm dialog, input dialog, and different variations which you can create yourselves, and you can inherit and create your own dialogues if you want to. So let's just have a go at implementing this message dialog. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this into my class and show you how this is working. I'll pause the video now. So I've copied and pasted this method into my image viewer class here, and just tidied up a bit so it's a little bit longer. The only other thing you need to do then is because it's got a version in here, I've created a field called a version here as well. So that's what I've done. All I've done is I added a version there and put that in there. So the next job now is to add a help button to the J menu pane, or to the J menu, and go from there. So I'll pause the video and add that and then show you in a sec. So we need to go into the make menu bar method. So this is the before and after shot. So this is before the new help menu has been added. First job is to add a new J menu there. Call that help, so the file has got a help menu next to it. Next thing then is to add the help menu to the actual menu bar itself. And the next job is to add this section here, the J menu help item. So what I've done is added the J menu help, or the J menu help, then added that to the actual menu bar itself. Then I've added the J menu item, help item, added an action listener, added some bits and pieces, including a shortcut for it, and then added that to the actual J menu. So let's have a look at compiling that and seeing how that works. All the other thing I did is obviously run the method there, the show about method, which is the method which we just created to do the dialog. So let's have a look at this. Reset the virtual machine. There's our normal menu which we had before. Here's our help now, and now our about, and that pops up at our JoptionPane, and we can OK that and move on. Okay. So again, this here is, shows a bit of a nested layout. We've got a grid layout inside a flow layout inside a border layout. This is going to become the norm, really, is the layouts inside of layouts, and we're going to do that when we certainly look at the Android layouts. The other thing you can use just to smarten your GUIs up a little bit is to use borders. So that's defined in the java.swing.border package, or class rather, and there's a number of different borders which you can use there. We've mentioned the components there, and in the link here you'll see plenty of ways of getting to these other components which are available, plus the event listeners that are associated with them. So that's pretty much it for this particular video. There's a review slides there for you to have a look at, and then some exercises for you as well to crack on with. Okay, see you next time.